Afternoon. Warm welcome to everybody watching again. NUFC Talk TV. Yeah, I was just reading. You know when you read something and it's stuck in your mind, and I just couldn't get my words out. Me and the Mighty Win. There's already Yummy. I'm the Mighty Win here with you again this Wednesday afternoon, talking all things Newcastle. Well, talking about Newcastle and whatever's out there. But before we get, yeah, exactly. We are scraping the barrel a little bit this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. But before we get into today's show, I suppose we better do the housework. Again, welcome to everybody watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to everybody that works in the background. Don't forget to smash that like button for us if you enjoy the show. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell button for future content. If you want to help us grow, then you can become a member, small monthly fee. And once you become a member, then you can come on board at the Prediction League, where we predict the scores for each Premier League game throughout the season. If you've got a question for me or Win, then obviously try and put a Q in front of the question. It just helps us obviously highlight it. But again, apologies. Not all guaranteed to be mentioned. So if you want to guarantee it, then you can use the $sign, follow the instructions and send us a super chat. And anybody that becomes a member or any of our beautiful members out there in the viewer land that do gift memberships will be highlighted and thanked as we go. How will we make this Wednesday afternoon? You good?
Yeah, we're good. Interestingly, I was on the forum this morning, and Mark Tununda was there.
Right.
So we were talking about the misogynist comment that appeared in the forum last night. But then he said, "Listen," he says, "I've got to go. State of Origin's about to start." That was at 11 o'clock. So I thought, oh well, I'll give that a watch. And I thought State of the Origin was the rules football.
Right.
But it's actually not. It's the Interstate Rugby League.
Right.
Championship. Because I sent him see if I can find the message I sent him. Where is he? Mark Tununda. I said, oh, excellent. I was looking for something to do until the 2:15 show. I'll watch that. Who are you rooting for? By the way, I love the goal markers in Aussie Rules football.
Aussie Rules.
You know, proper gear. Yeah. You know the way that whoop, all of the hand signs and with the flags. And he says, "No, mate," he says, "you were thinking of AFL, Australian
Footballs,
league with the twirly flags. This is rugby league." So
I love me rugby. I love rugby league and rugby union, to be fair. But you know what? When the Aussie Rules, they're pretty hard boys. Them boys that play rugby.
Yeah. Like I say, I've watched a
Aussie
bit of
Rules.
It. But I says correct. I thought it was Aussie Rules. Oh well. I'll still watch the stop-start egg chasers.
Yeah. Team season's coming with a question straight away. So, Gary, is DCL coming? Literally, I have literally just been scaring the market. I'm going to have a shout out to Richard. I've just dropped Richard off. We've been in a meeting this morning, so I haven't had much time. So if Richard's watching, nice to see you, buddy. For me, DCL is one of them. Listen, you've got to. I think what we've got to remember is, he's not been injured. He's had games. He's not been injured over the last 2 seasons, right? So I don't think it's more of the injury concern for me. What does concern me is the fact that we saw the decline on Wilson over the last season and a bit, if you suppose, regarding goal scoring. And you can't say that he hasn't had the opportunities. And that's what worries me more than anything else. If you want somebody that's going to come in and impact Isaac, whether it's starting or whether it's coming on to give Isaac a bit of a rest, the one thing that worries me is you want somebody who can score goals. Now, people are saying that DCL was a one-season wonder, and we've seen that with players in our team. Where they are absolutely outstanding during that purple patch, but then seem to go a missing post that. So I am still concerned. Now, the report that I've just read, and again, I don't know how much BS it is, but there's talk that he's got more potential of going to United, the other United. Man U are looking at strengthening their front line, and it looks like they're having a talk with his representatives. So, again, I ain't going to rule it out him coming to Newcastle, because I think Eddie Howe's a bit of a fan, and yes, he comes free, but there will be a wage, and I think,
and he's on 100k.
yeah, exactly. There will be a wage beyond that, and obviously, like we saw with Kelly, that may be upped because of the signing on fee, malarkey, and everything else that goes with it. So you may get him on a free, but you may have to throw a big chunk of change at him to come and sit on the bench. And you've got to ask yourself, as we've critiqued Target for doing exactly the same, and Kelly for doing that, is it worth it? Is he worth the wages to come and actually be a bench warmer? And as you quite rightly say, 10 goals in 3 seasons isn't great, team. And that's the one thing that worries me. It's not the injury side of things. Like I said, injuries can come thick and fast to players. We saw that with Target, bless him, where he had, the 2 quite bad injuries back to back. And then obviously he gets flares up with his eczema and stuff like that. And again, these are ailments that your body just throws out. And sometimes, like with his eczema, it could be under stress, nerves, which usually brings the skin ailments out even more. So again, I'm not knocking it. I just think it's a lot of money for somebody to come and sit on the bench. My concern is the fact that you've got young uns out there, and I've said it before. Besiktas have got a really good young un. He's only a 19-year-old, still learning his trade, gets goals. No Premiership proven, I know that, and it would be a punt. But if you're going to throw wages out there, I would rather go and have somebody that's coming through. And again, we look at Asula. What's happening with Asula? Lots of rumours out there now that Asula will be going out on loan because he just doesn't see him as a front man at the minute. I think it's a trade that he's got to learn. But if you're going to give a punt to somebody that is totally unseen, he's an unnamed player. And by all accounts, we're looking at 2 players that even the media don't even know in Europe. There's been no mention of them. So who are these players? That's the other thing. I think DCL, like I say, he's an outside chance because he's free. But I don't think he's the goal threat that we'd want. It could change. I mean, because, you've got to think that Everton, like I said before, Everton didn't really have a squad would fill you with joy. You wasn't getting many opportunities in front of goal, and I think that is the thing that only backs him up on a theory-based things. But like I say, when you look at over the few seasons that he's had 1 purple season where he got the 16 goals. Apart from that, he has been very, very bitter. So you do have to question that because there's teams out there of a similar ilk to Everton that have had a top man that scored, 10 goals at least minimum. So you do have to question it. And obviously the other thing is he did lose his place in an Everton side to, again, a player that didn't really show a lot apart from a lot of effort. When we played Everton last game of the season, what you saw from him, Becco, wasn't it? Was his name Becco?
Yeah.
Or something like that. He run that front line fantastically well for them. And you've got to question if DCL can't get in an Everton side, then you've got to start asking, how the hell is he going to improve our side? So I am still, I'm still on the fence with this potential. But like I said, I will never ever rule anything out because we all know what Newcastle are. Team has come back with Gary, I guess, a different right proper yesterday. My issue is he won't score the goals we need if Isaac can't score in a game or is a rest or injury. Eddie needs to bring him in. I know, question him. Yeah, exactly, mate. That's what I just said. My worry for him is the goals that we want from that second string striker. And that's what I said. For me, I'd rather go for a rank outsider, somebody young, up and coming, that can be coached, if you like. But that's that's a luxury in, and Wynn's quite right with what he said before. We're gambling all the time when you do that. And I understand that and I appreciate that. But we're also in a situation where we just can't throw stupid money out for the likes of Sesko, Gyökeres and things like that. And these are players, the same as Delap, that just aren't willing to come and sit on the bench behind Isak. And we've seen the likes of Alvarez go in the past because, again, he got a little bit disillusioned, waiting and biding his time behind Haaland. But again, he was played in different positions to try and get him game time. And even that wasn't good enough for him. So, like I said, there's more behind this striker role than just getting somebody who can score goals, because they've got to be somebody who's willing to sit on the bench. What's your thoughts on this, mate?
If getting DCL in on a free allows us to spend much bigger elsewhere in the team where we need it, centre back, I would argue we still need a midfielder.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless some of the kids are going to come through. But again, then you're relying on kids. And instead of having quality, that's what we need. I would argue that with Elanga, our front three and midfield three are as good as any other six in the Prem. If you take Tonali, Bruno and J, all on form, Tonali, Bruno, J7, Isak, Elanga and Gordon, there's not a six much better than them anywhere in the league. You could argue Liverpool, but have they got an Isak? They've got a Salah, but have they got an Isak? Don't think so.
They may have by the start of the Premier League.
Well, this is what I don't know if you saw the show last night, but I was saying I've got a theory. The fact that Callum has just went,
yeah,
and he said he's made it public that he's leaving. He wants a club. No more so than the Chelsea game last night. Did you see his quotes from the Chelsea game last night?
No.
He's a pundit for DAZN, and he was asked, where is it? It's a lovely quote. After being asked if Joe Pedro's second goal in the Club World Cup against Fluminense reminded him of his younger days, the 33-year-old fired back, young, it's still in my locker. I just need to find a club.
Yeah.
So if that's not a come and get me play, I don't know what is. And I tell you what, everybody still thinks I'm mad, but if I was Man United looking for a free centre forward, I wouldn't be looking at DCL. I'd be looking at Callum Wilson.
I just think he's, like I say, I just think, unfortunately, it's his pace now. He finds it very difficult to get.
There was a couple of occasions last season when he came on, and there was nothing the matter with his pace. You were saying he didn't get. I'm not sure whether you're referring to Callum there or whether you're referring to DCL when he said he didn't get chances, because Callum didn't get a lot of chances last season.
No, but he had chances to play the ball off when he decided to have a go, and that's why I said that sometimes, because of that fear of not scoring goals, becomes paramount. And you go through, all strikers go through a dry spell. I mean, Alan Shearer did. He was.
What the hell is this?
What?
Chris Rodriguez just became a member, eh? Welcome.
Absolutely. It's weird because, like, when you look at it, like, for me, it's about when they go through these moments of like Callum did. We know he hasn't got the pace to beat a player. We know he hasn't got that technical ability to find the top corner all the time. I mean, he has done it. I'm not saying he can't do it. He has done it, but it's a technical ability to strike a ball inside, in step, and shape a ball into a corner. He's more the 6-yard man. He's more the huff and puff and the scrappy bits and pieces where he's having a go. But I just find now, like I say, is some of his game just seemed to disappear when we needed him the most last year. And we keep looking at it, and I think it's you've got a different opinion on Callum Wilson. I understand that. I got nothing but respect for Callum Wilson because he came on board when we were at our lowest, and without his goals, we could have been in a different situation as we are now. But Simon Farrimond here, this is something that I would love to see happen. Get a promising striker loan with obligation to buy so we can use the funds for other boys. This is something that Eddie seems to not really look at. Yes, we did it with Hall, but he doesn't really look at the loan market very much. And to be fair, you've also got to ask yourself, what's the situation with that striker and his parent club if they're forcing him out on loan? Now, exactly. the only thing you're going to get from a player coming on loan is, as you've seen at Man U, with a lot of their players that have been shelled out, big names, they've all got mental issues. They've all got attitude issues. And unfortunately, like I say, I quite like the idea of having a player come on, and if he hits a target, there is an obligation to buy. But I don't want players coming in where it's a signed contract that it's an obligation to buy, even if they don't. They've got to reach so many minutes. We understand that, like 1,000 minutes or something stupid. But I think there's got to be something set in stone for them to come on board fully. Because again, that in itself a gamble. Because what you get is what we've seen with Rashford at Villa. The guy goes out there and he plays some of his best football I've seen him play in years. And is that because he's still got it in the locker? Or is it because he's vying for another contract? Because that's what players do sometimes. They'll go and they'll go and put themselves in the shop window, really have a go, try and get that contract nailed. And once it's nailed, you're screwed. So again, there is ways to get these players in, but I don't know. Eddie just seems to frown away of loan deals, which is really, really strange. But I mean, obviously, we know Elanga's
but noticeably, the loan deals that he has entered into have all been successes, and I include Matt Targett in that, despite the contrary opinion. Matt Targett did a great job for us when we bought him on loan. There's qualms now about how much wages he ended up getting, but to me, that was before we signed Hall. Everybody was screaming that Dan Burn wasn't a left back, even though he was part of the best defence in the league. And so Eddie went and bought him. And unfortunately then, a series of injuries knocked him. So we've never seen the best of him since. But I think Matt Targett would be a great buy for somebody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, it's the wage demand. He's got to drop the wage demands.
I think we could negotiate that, in terms of he's got
paying some off.
Yeah, just pay it off.
Just pay it off. Yeah. Well, I think that's the only way you'd get rid of him.
You're talking $5 million a year, and he's got I think 2 years. Well, 2 years. Let's just have a check on that. Not Target.
I think he has. He's got another 2 years, hasn't
he?
But Frogman 86 has put down he'd love Strand Larson from Wars. I mean, again, very of a similar ilk to Wilson in his younger days. Very forward-thinking frontman, strong. He wouldn't be a bad thing But like I say, he's joined permanently on a after a season long loan, and that's what I said. They are out there, but it's whether he can continue to be. Like I say, on that frame of mind. Now, Chris has just come on and said, "Isn't that similar to what Gordon did?" Now, I'm not saying Gordon. He did have a poorish season compared to the season before because he did hit the heights. And I think that's the trouble. And again, if Isak has a season where he only scores 12 goals, are we not going to say the same about Isak? Has Isak gone through 2 seasons of a purple patch, and now we're seeing the true Isak? And we talk about us having these punts for players. Now, Isak obviously has been Newcastle's highest valued player when we bought him. Didn't have amazing figures when we bought him, but obviously Eddie saw something in him. So that was a massive gamble, wasn't it? If you were to say, and I'm going back to the DCL saga now, if you were to look at figures that Isak was throwing out for £63 million, we are saying there and then there's got to be something in the player that Eddie sees, and that's what I said. You cannot discount DCL, and you can't discount what's happened to him in the past. The biggest problem with DCL, there's too many question marks behind his name, and whether that's a fitness thing or whether it's a goal scoring thing. And I always go towards the latter. We want somebody who can hit the ground running, but we also need somebody that can score goals and not keep on this dry period that's been happening at the moment, because that just creates mental pressure throughout the team, because people then stop passing the ball to you, even if you've got a good outlet, because they know it's not going to happen. And I know that sounds really sneaky. I know it sounds, if you've got a 50-50
that's
choice.
football.
But that's
exactly
football.
What happens.
Yeah.
If you're busting the gut to put your striker through and he's consistently failing to put the ball in the onion bag, you eventually stop. You try
you go somewhere
different.
else.
You go yourself, or you just pass back or whatever, because you think, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, Trolls is
that's just football at every single level that you want to play.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Trolls has just said, we've got the young lads coming in, Salia and Cordero. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see what happens to them in the pre-season, whether they get an opportunity to shine. I think, having watched Cordero at his age group, he shines. And I think, the only way you can look at a player from outside the box, if you like, is if he shines in his own age group. And Cordero does that, and he's playing with other internationals alongside him that are obviously all at their peak of their age group, else they wouldn't be at an international level. So for me, it's a case of Eddie's got a couple of chances here before he rolls the dice and decides. We're talking about Kowal, we're talking about Sanusi, and even Asula, who's a little bit older than these boys. There's opportunities in the pre-season to have a really good look to see whether these lads can come in and improve the squad. The only concern for me
this is the typical pre-season dilemma, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
When you've got it, are you using it to get minutes in the legs of the first team starters, or are you using it to have a look at what's available outside the first team squad? And it's a very delicate balance to work. We've seen Newcastle in the past play 2 completely different teams. The first half would be the first team, and the second half all change, and all hell breaks loose. And I don't know which I prefer. I think this season is so crucial. It's one of the most crucial seasons that I can remember, in terms of, if we don't perform, the whole thing's decimated, because we're going to lose all of our top players. They're all good enough to, half a dozen of them are good enough to move anywhere they want to move, really.
Yeah, Pod Mags is saying, well done to you for fixing your microphone. He can hear you. He can hear them pearls of wisdom. Pod Mags, thank you very much. Wins listen to you. So it is an interesting situation to be in, and you're absolutely right. I think this is a pivotal season for Newcastle coming up, because it's going to sway one way or the other, and it's about the stars that we've got to keep. And people will say, we all sit on this fence and say, what would be your best? And I've seen people get criticised for saying 10th in a good Champions League run. I think, for us to be a success, we've got to be a European club. Champions League.
Be Champions League.
Yeah, I'm going to say Champions League is the pinnacle. But I think you've got to be a European club to keep the fire burning.
I think if we spend what I'm expecting us to spend in this window, and we don't get Champions League,
yeah,
and
Mark is a Forest fan. He's saying, give us Elanga back.
I'm saying,
welcome on board, Mark.
Another cup would be lovely. FA Cup especially, obviously. Realistically, we ain't going to win the Champions League. Even I don't think we can win the Champions League. But if we can put some money in the coffers by getting to the quarter-final, semi-final, that would be fantastic. But qualifying again for the Champions League is what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Mark has just put on that he wants Elanga back. There's lots of people in Nottingham or Nottingham Forest fans that are obviously asking the question of where they go now. Is that going to be to their detriment to try and find an Elanga replacement?
Well, by all accounts, have they not signed Bakayoko?
Well, I don't know whether the deal's gone through, but obviously they are in for Bakayoko, so they have got a good lad coming in. What's scary for Forest is we planned on buying 2 wingers this season, but have now sold Elanga, Sosa, so we need 4 wingers. Wow. Well, at least you've got a bit of pocket money, mate, to go and ply the business.
Sell your bonds.
I wouldn't. You see, you know what I love about Newcastle now.
Sorry, not bonds, man. Willock.
Oh, well, obviously, yeah. You could say that. For me, what I quite like, I like the way Eddie's looking at this, because you have got 2 phases now of Newcastle. We've got a way of the slow build up with the likes of Barnes, Murphy, and that's why I said, for me, that ideal situation now to have these 2 slower players on the field of play at some point is to work with a 10. So you've got a diamond working from the middle through to the front man. And that's why I said the front man, for me, that's coming in has got to be somebody that works well in a system when we're giving players a rest. And like I say, you've got pace now when you want to get in and behind on the attack and really get at teams, or you've got a team that can build up progressively through the different stages in a more methodical approach to the game in the attack. And again, you need players that work within that system. Now, we all know Isak can drop into the 10 if you want to continue to play in that way. And I think that's where Eddie was looking at Pedro. Pedro again can drop into that 10 and play a different relation to the front man. So again, looking at that second striker is, to me, part of this jigsaw puzzle that Eddie's got. So I think you've got pace is your first string attack. You've got methodical approach in your second string attack. It gives Eddie a total change to the tactical approach for each game and each opposition that he's facing. So this player that's coming in, has to fit that part of the jigsaw. And that's why I think, with DCL, he's not looking for the ball over the top because he ain't got the pace. He does like to play in the channels sometimes with a little ball, 10 to 15-yard ball.
And he can play with his back to goal.
He plays with his back to goal, and he's good in the air, so he can be the target striker.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. Looking at what Eddie's doing, that's why I would never rule DCL out.
Me neither.
Because of what Eddie's got, if you look at the change within the system, it's whether he can still score goals, and that's the thing. Right then, Elanga, he's coming up to his second part of his medical, and we've both said in the past that we are very much in line with his athleticism and the way he looks after himself. And there was a cracking article that I read while I was at clinic this morning, where one of the youth coaches at Man U were talking about how this lad strives to improve. And I just wanted to approach that. I can't remember the lad's name now. He's one of the performance coaches at Man U, and he said, like, when he saw Elanga, and he was talking to Elanga, and again, we all know now, coming up from the junior levels in the academy teams, it's more the mental approach to football as well as the physical dilemma. So these guys do get well supported in the mental side of things. But what I loved about Elanga and how he approached the game from a junior was how he looked after himself. He was always looking at, his health, things that he ate, even as a kid. You don't get that in many players. You don't get that many kids, you know what I mean, where they actually look at what's good for the system. And he said, even back then, Manchester United were in a bit of a torrid time when he moved over to Forest for £15 million. They couldn't see an opportunity coming for him, and he was coming up to the end of his contracts type of thing, and it was like a case of, where are we going to put this kid in? And he seems to have hit the ground completely running at Forest. He doesn't seem to have lost any confidence. He doesn't seem to have lost any of his ability that obviously was definitely there at Manchester United. He just was never given the opportunity. Now, if you listen to a lot of the Manchester United fans, they all called him crap. They all said he was useless. But again, it's about that improvement, isn't it? It's all about him willing to take that next step in his career. And he's come out and said, this guy said, that next development, and this is no disrespect to Nottingham Forest, is going and playing in the Champions League. Because it's that, like you've said, to play in that level of football improves the player individually on a psychological level, also on a player level, because if you lose the ball, you can get away with it in the Premier League against certain opposition. You're not going to get away with it in the Champions League when you're playing these elite teams back to back. So very, very interesting talk on Elanga. And like I say, I cannot see how he'll fail his second part of his medical unless there's something hidden behind the scenes. But I think he'll fly through it. Yeah, I can't see there being any issues. Elanga struggled against low blocks at Man U. That's why they didn't rate him. There you go. And that was my problem. I don't know how he's going to get in behind, but it is interesting. Go on, mate.
I was just going to say, because we were chatting yesterday in the show about Bakayoko and how Forest were going to get him for 17 million, and I said, no way will he get 70. So I'm just looking at the Nottingham Forest newspapers at the minute.
Thanks, Sean.
30 million is what they've been quoted for Bakayoko. So they've now turned their attention to Aktekoglu from Benfica.
Benfica, yeah, good.
38 million.
Yeah.
So 18 goals, 16 assists last season for Benfica. But, Benfica, Portugal, they score goals for fun. It's a 3-team league. So the same with the Eredivisie in Holland. You know, it's a 3-team league basically, and if you can't get decent figures there, you're not trying. And you know, these people condemn me for going on about Premier League proving and all that, but let's see what they do when they get here.
Yeah, Chris is talking about, obviously, you know, it's a good things Newcastle. The club don't sign players fans want, because we wouldn't get top 8 with half the players being floating around today. What will Isaac think, or Isaac think? Not buying better players to make him stay. I mean, I don't know whether that's 2 questions. I do agree with the first one.
That's why, as you rightly said, this season is pivotal, absolutely pivotal, because it's not just Isaac. You know, if we don't get Champions League, there's half a dozen could potentially be on their way out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But as far as Elanga reaching his potential is concerned, I'll argue with everybody till the cows come home, there ain't a better coach in the world than Eddie Howe for developing players.
Yeah.
Playing to their strengths, finding out what their strengths are, improving their weaknesses. That's his raison d'etre. That's what he lives for. If you ask him, you know, when he did the high performance interview, that's the one thing that gives him but which is why I think he was never seriously interested in the England job, because, you know, there you're getting ready-made, finished articles to work with, and that's not what he gets his buzz out of. He gets his buzz going to work, working hard every day to improve the players that he's got. And that doesn't matter how good they are when they come, as we saw with Tonali, as we saw with Lewis Hall. They just get better working with Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you think of the players now that we've got Elanga in, and you look at the players that potentially could come our way, you know, Trafford. I mean, I'm still not 100% sure what's going on there. Obviously, we've still not closed the door on Gay and Scalvini, even though Atalanta are saying, you know, he's going to take a decent wedge for Scalvini to take. There's that other lad, Belleri, whatever his name is.
Bellerdi from
Bellerdi. Yeah, exactly. And then, obviously, up front, there's talk now about Wissa, you know, and I certainly wouldn't mind the likes of Wissa coming. Obviously, there's a rumour out there about Ollie Watkins as well now. Again, I
cannot see Ollie Watkins.
Neither can I. I mean, he's not going to come and sit on the bench. He doesn't. He doesn't want to do that.
World Cup, yeah, man. He wants to
show. Yeah, exactly.
Unless he's supremely confident and thinks, hey, I can go there and I can outperform Isaac. And if that's the case, good on him.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Burnley apparently are holding out for 40 million.
Yeah, that's the crack with Trafford.
He's not. Yeah, absolutely. He's not worth that. No. That's crazy. Kenny's saying that I'm reading 23-year-old from Coventry replaced Longstaff. There were links to that lad, and I can't think of his blooming name.
This was the kid who shone in the under 21s.
The 21s, yeah.
Who was it again?
I can't think of his name. But yeah, I read that yesterday that they were highly rating this lad. Again, you know the one thing that concerns me though, you know, where we've been constantly, I suppose, critical, and I don't want that sounds like a harsh word when I say that, but where we've been very critical on the age. We were always classed as the elder statesman, but you know, it seems as if we're going the other way now, doesn't it? It looks like we are going major youth. And obviously, what you've got then, hopefully, is some experience through the spine of the team. So it is going to be an interesting one. I quite liked him. I must admit, when I watched him in the Euros, he does get himself around a bit. But is he better than Longstaff? Only time will tell if we get him, I suppose. Like I said, there's a couple out there. There's a couple out there that I would go and have a serious look at, though. Only because, what they can offer you driving the ball forward. I'd like to see somebody that frees up Tonali a bit more. And we get that with J7, because J7 sometimes will sit unless Eddie wants him to be that target man for Popey on the long kicks. But that's a gamble, as we all know. So I think, if we can get somebody who's a little bit more varied, can sit as the 6, can drive the ball forward, can go and play in the 8 comfortably. Somebody, again, we've hired this new set piece coach, and I think that is another step in the right direction for me. Because the one thing I said, and I believe you said the same, our set plays last season were very, very poor. Didn't seem as though we had, especially if Kieran Trippier, well, even when Kieran come on board, some of his kicks were a bit wayward, if I'm honest. But it doesn't seem as though we had certain set pieces, but it was more the short ball and build-up play from the short ball. We very rarely looked as though we had anybody that was going to take a corner or a direct free kick. Tonali had a go. We'd seen Anthony Gordon. We'd seen multiple people, even Murphy, throw a ball in from a corner type of thing. So I'd like to see this guy come in and do something different with Newcastle and try and achieve decent set plays, because I do think we've been lacking over the last season or two.
And did we not bring somebody in?
Yeah, as I said, we've signed a set piece coach now.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find this bloody Coventry player.
McAtee, Johnny Danny's Man City. But again, he's up for sale. But again, he plays the 10, doesn't he? We do... I like McAtee. I mean, again, he can't be a bad player if Pep throws him on for the last 10, 15 minutes.
This was for... see if I can get that up.
Rodoni.
No. I'm talking about McAtee.
Jack Rodoni.
Where does McAtee play?
McAtee, he plays as the 10 slot, doesn't he? For England.
Well, you might have thought so. Let's see if I can...
But I suppose for Man City, he comes and plays
up top,
doesn't he?
If you look at his heat map... how do I...
You've got your share.
Yeah,
the group share, yeah.
I just want to get it full screen, and I'm
struggling
here on this bloody website. It's perfect.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I always just use that and try and.
I normally do it beforehand if I'm going to do it, and
no worries.
Transfer it. I'll keep trying. Don't worry.
So
looking at McAtee's heat map, you wouldn't have a clue where he plays.
No.
Because he's literally covering every blade of grasses this year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Jack Rodoni is the Coventry player. That's who the lads were talking about in the thing. And like I say, I mean, I do. I think he's a decent player. He seems, and like I say, my mate Richard, who I've just dropped off, is a big Coventry City fan. And I believe he's, he'll give me some good insight into this lad. But by all accounts, we are very much in lines of picking this lad up. Now, talking of midfielders, then just while you try and get that from McAtee, would be a great addition to Carrasco, circa 20 million. Rog, yeah, I agree. But apparently they went more, something like 30 million, isn't it? They want something like that, 35 million. They're looking for McAtee.
25.
They want 25 for him.
25, aye.
Ah, right, okay. I don't think that's a bad shot.
I don't think it's untoward at all.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, what I like about McAtee is he does throw the effort in, and he does cover the ground for you. I think he'd certainly give us a different scope, and that's what I was saying. When Eddie's looking for a player to come in and play this methodical approach. Somebody like McAtee sitting in that hole behind a striker, whoever it be, So it stops, and that's the other thing with me. The one thing that I saw with Isak last year, because sometimes we become quite flat in the three in midfield. There's a lot of gaps between the three and Isak. I liked it when either Barnes became narrow and become an inverted. So he could be, the fact for me, the likes of McAtee sitting in that hole, covering the blades of grass that he does. You can have your lads inverted then. We know Barnes likes to come in. McAtee could go on the outside. So you're just changing it up all the time. And these type of players very rarely come available. The unfortunate thing is, like I say, a lot of these players now, as a like of a lot of Man City players, Delap, for an example, want out because they just don't get the game time. There you go. Cool.
2 seconds.
Yeah, you can throw that up on the big screen because we're just going to move on to. There you go. That's like I say.
That's it. That's his heat map for the full season for Man City.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So where does he play?
Yeah, I mean, I know he's played. Like I say, he's played in multiple positions for Man City, but like I say, predominantly he likes to play in that 10. And to be fair, if you think about it, as a 10, that suits what you've put on the screen there, because he'll have to. If your wingers drop back in defence, he's the 10, he's the outlet.
Yeah,
he'll cover left and right wings. Yeah. So that to me shouts 10 all day long. So, like I say, I quite like the lad. It looks like a Tonali heat map, says Geordie Dan. Yeah,
exactly.
A confused 10, says Roger Cook. But again, you see, this is what I said. When you've got somebody like Pep Guardiola as your coach, he's got a plan. He's always got an out. So a lot of these players, you look at the heat maps, it's like stats. Don't always show the game, and that's what I quite like with what the lads always say. Sometimes you have to rely on both. You can't just rely on stats, and you can't just rely on your eyes to know what's going on, because we follow the ball. We very rarely look at a player individually and follow what a player's doing when he's not got the ball.
Well, did you watch Dan Burn on the High Performance?
I did.
I thought that was fascinating when he was talking about everybody knew where there was moves, there was triggers. And if they went there, then we go there, and somebody's going to be there, and it was just absolutely fascinating to listen to.
Well, you could see that, couldn't you? Like I said, you could see that when Shaw went forward and they all slipped across when against Crystal Palace and Chelsea. You could see that movement, that trigger with Burn going forward and then Shaw going forward, just having that pivot from Botman being the anchor man. So, I think, like I say, Newcastle are in a really good situation when it comes to players that we've got now that we can add that strength to. The unfortunate thing is
the first 11.
It's just age, mate. You're going to get age-related injuries.
Can always be improved, of course it can. But
the
worry has always been when you've got to make substitutions. The drop in standard is phenomenal, and that's what we need to address. But again, as I say, don't address it by improving the bench. Address it by improving the first 11 so that they then have to drop to the bench.
Yeah. There is an element
down as opposed to bottom up.
Behind that. Bottom up, exactly. But it gives everybody the opportunity. I mean, I was watching you guys talk yesterday about who starts, Elanga or Murphy, and we all know it. Murphy has that loyalty card in his pocket, but as you quite rightly said, it's up to Murphy to lose in the pre-season games, isn't it? He's had a great season last season. He had a half decent season the season before. Stats don't lie at the end of the day, even though, like I say, if you were to look at Murphy, I can understand why everybody wanted an upgrade, because Murphy is a frustrating player. So if you just went on stats, which is what Sky Sports do all the time, he was second in GAs, with his XG, behind Salah. You know what I mean? But performance-wise,
Elanga needs to work on his smile.
Yeah, great. Gaz, NUFC, we will get Gaya, 100% Liverpool being linked with a different centre-back today. How went for him last season, signed with Elanga, and we got him in the end. So, Gaz, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. And for 35 million, I would snap your hand off if it does happen. But like I say, I am not... Wissett is 28, ready for the retirement home, says Geordie Dan.
Well, he's the same age as Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin, yeah, exactly. But he's more athletic. He can get behind the front, the back line. So I would like Wissa. I really would. I think Wissa could give you a different, a different outlook.
16,397 and 3,996. So that's 6 months between them.
Look at this. I love this. Gayu will love looking at the size of Wissa whilst flirting with Willie Orsolo. He's that new Japanese player we've bought. Nick Thornton, Wissa, Gay and Trafford would make this a brilliant window. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't have asked for more, if I'm honest with you. But like I say, there's still a lot of work to be done. Wissa scored more last season than DCL has scored in 3 seasons. And that's the problem. It's that cloud that's over DCL, which is annoying everybody. And I suppose what we need to do now is move swiftly on, because obviously, as we've said, we've got to look at players that who's more important than. And I want to ask the chat for you guys now. Who's more important, the right centre back, which is obviously what we've been requiring, or the striker? What position do you think, or should they both come together? Are they both as important? And I think that is where I'm probably lying towards. If I was on the fence at all, I'd be saying they're both equally important. But if you had your choice now, would you bring in the striker or would you bring in the defender? So I'll leave that up to you. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer that, and we'll come back to that. Going on to other news of interest, obviously we've been linked with Koku.
Just before, will you? I've just had a quick look on FootMob.
Yeah,
This is rather worrying. Johan Wissa, 21.1% shot conversion rate. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, have a guess.
Go on.
6%.
Oh, jeez.
Chris Wood, 29%.
Yeah, that's what I said. And we got rid of Chris Wood because apparently he didn't play to our way. And again, at the time, struggled to score goals. I mean, people will always remember those goals that he missed, those chances that he missed. Like I said, we were linked with Koku, and apparently he has dismissed moving to Newcastle. Apparently, he wants to join Besiktas. So that one has fell by the right, according to it. He wants to go and link up with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Besiktas. He had interest from also Inter and Saudi Arabia. So obviously he's not going for money, he's going for the game. And again, this is what I said about players coming to Newcastle. They, a deal, 25 million euros, I think he was valued. And I think that the biggest problem we have with any player coming to Newcastle, they've got to get in front of the mid 3. And it's not going to be easy for anybody. So, and like I say, you look at our front 3 now, your mid 3, it's going to be tough. You saying about bringing players in to drop them to the bench. Wow, that's going to be some going, kid. And I mean, like I say, I would love it, but I just can't see it happening. Love it if that happens. Going on to the academy, I suppose we should hit that, because obviously there's been a young starlet that's been called or nicknamed the Mini Pogba.
Mini Pogba.
The mini Pogba.
As I said in the green room, Gary, I don't know whether that's an insult or a
Like I
term of
said,
praise.
yeah, if it was Pogba from his early days at Juve, I'll be well happy. Put it that way. Obviously some of the young uns have been offered brand new deals. Sam Alabi, Patterson, Gilligan, Thomas Old, Oliver Holland, Noah Morgan, Callahan, Ndweni. I didn't realise we'd got an Ndweni either. Pinnington, Mills, and Mason Miley, who has obviously been classed as the new mini Pogba. Sam Alabi and Michael Mills are the 216 internationals who have shone at the under 18s level on Tyneside. So again, like I said before, I like Sam Alabi. I think for that lad at his age group now, working really well at the under 18s level. And that to me is where Newcastle need to be. They really need to focus on getting these youngsters playing at a higher level. And we've seen that, like I say, 16-year-olds playing at 18s, 18-year-olds playing at 21s. It's a really good way of getting these guys first team ready. And obviously, like I say, young Mason Miley, he seems to be the flavour of the month and really showing signs of a massive improvement with the under 18s. So, like I say, one to watch. Nice to have the Miley brothers on board. It just seems as if, like I say, waiting for that buzz. One never comes, then two come together. So that's really
Three
cracking
come
news.
together.
Well, sometimes, absolutely. That's that little bit of news.
That's one thing I'm really looking forward to this season as well. By the way, Miley given more
having
opportunity
a chance.
let's. Is he all that, or have we been?
Have we been blessed too early?
Have we increased our hopes too much?
Well, again, you've got to think you're not going to improve unless you've got game time. I think, the biggest problem for me, Miley needs to go and play. That's when Miley needs to go. Our problem is we've got no quality in depth that supports the three in the middle as it is. And that's an area of concern for me. And I've said it, and I keep saying it. Willett comes, he fleets with a decent performance every fifth game, and that's not good enough. We all know what Longstaff gives you. Again, it is what it is. He's the player off the ball rather than the player on the ball. That seems to work. So Miley, unfortunately, and I said this last season, he's dealt this really hard hand where he's only going to improve and get better with game time. And he's only going to get that if he moves away on loan somewhere, because it'll make him a better player.
Except, can we afford to let him move at the minute?
That's what I said. Yeah, exactly. You've got nobody. And I'm going to go to a Mackham, right? Joe Bellingham. Joe Bellingham played lots of football. He's got that move now to Borussia Dortmund. Seems to be developing as a player. I know everybody was, on the other side of the time, were having nothing to do with it. But I think that was an opportunity for somebody to go and pickpocket a player. Because, like I say, he didn't shine highly at Sunderland.
Well, I was going to say,
but there was definitely a player there.
I still think he's basking in reflected glory in a way.
Of his brother, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think there's a player there. You know what I mean? And that's why I said I think under the right guidance, I think you can nurture him to being a good player.
Well,
you don't. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I've seen Flitz at Borussia Dortmund already. What a player he can be. I don't think he'll ever be as big as his brother. But, Murphy's younger brother's never going to be as big as Jacob, is he? You know what I mean? But it's like I said, I do think there was an opportunity to go knocking when he was south of the Tyne. But that ship has sailed, I should say. There was something else I was going to have a look at. Sporting director. This is apparently Newcastle are close to finalising the sporting director role. Again, it seems to be a summer saga. Again, I suppose while Paul Mitchell was in seat, very, very difficult to go and and bring somebody else in. And again, is it the right time of year to bring in somebody else who's going to have a different way of looking and approaching the transfer window? And obviously, we'd had Ross Wilson, Jason Ato on the cards, but it seems very much since Julian Ward, when he was brought into the chat, has obviously pulled away. It seems as if Ross Wilson now, another Forest connection, seems to be the front runner, and it seems to be the candidate now that's favourite for the position. Obviously, when that is, when he does get into the hot seat, who knows? But it does look like he is going to be the one that hits the space. And apart from that, there is very little else. Like I say, lots of rumours.
We're waiting for the final news on Elanga. I can't, as you rightly said at the start of the show, I cannot see him failing a medical because he's as fit as a butcher's dog. But that's obviously imminent.
Yeah.
And the Martin Mark, by the way, is the set piece coach that we've appointed.
Yeah.
That's coming from the Athletic. 31-year-old Dane. James Bunce he's worked with. And he's been youth coach at FC Midtjylland. And he's been head of set pieces there since 2022. Danish side finished second in the top flight last season after winning the title the season before. So there's something for us to go and have a look at. FC Midtjylland set piece success.
Excellent. And I suppose just before we go, I better show that because there has been a little bit of a change, I believe, to where are we? Let's have a go on there. It's Chris's. That's going to be Chris's as well. So I can't go on that one. Apparently, the Newcastle-Liverpool game is now at 8 p.m. kickoff on Monday evening. August the 25th. Monday, August the 25th, 8 p.m. kickoff. So there you go.
It's August Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah. So that is, it's moved to Monday night and Leeds United on Saturday, tea time for TV. So there you go. There's the two that's been moved. Ian put that in the chat, so I just had a quick confirm, and I've got it in front of me. I can't share it, unfortunately. Apart from, I suppose I could go up there and do it that way. There you go. Throw it that way. So there you go. That's the next round of fixtures confirmed for TV. Newcastle versus Liverpool, Monday, August the 25th, 8 p.m. And that is it, folks. We are good to go when it comes to the news and everything else. So,
I haven't seen any more questions anywhere. So
no. I mean, I've covered most of the chat while we were chatting. Molly needs to be rotated with Sandra. We also need to see Alex Murphy get time. Like I say, there's another one. Geordie Dan, another one. We're in a DOF time loop. We're really the right centre back. Shaw was crap most of last season, says Trolls.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, he certainly had his moments. I'll give him that. But like I say, he did seem to come to his own. And this sounds really weird. When we played three at the back, Shaw seemed to be a different animal, where he was given that freedom. I think, unfortunately, with Shaw, when he's playing as the anchor role, I just think sometimes he goes missing a little bit, and he's reliant on the speed of others to get him out of jail. But anyway, Jack Grealish news is hot.
Listen, that's something we are, horribly lacking at the back. Pace.
Yeah. And that's what I said. For me, that's why I like the Salvini, because he gives you a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But again, there's question marks over whether he's going to be somebody who's going to sit more on the physio's bench because of his history of injuries. But again, you don't get injured unless you get stuck in. So, yeah, you do have to question what type of player
Well,
you want.
alternatively, you get injured if you don't commit wholeheartedly.
Oh, hardly, yeah. But that's what I said. You've got to get involved. That's it. So we are not on tonight. Oh, have you guys got anything?
Breaking news just coming up on Sky,
Go on.
which contradicts something that was put in the chat. Lyon have won their appeal against relegation from Ligue 1. That's breaking news on Sky right now.
Right.
So someone in the chat was saying that they lost their appeal, but Sky are breaking news, Lyon win appeal against relegation.
Okay. So look, I've just had a look here. That looks like Spurs have gone in for Wissa.
Well, that makes sense with Frank there.
Absolutely. So,
and it also wouldn't surprise me if they suddenly have an interest in Mbeumo as well.
Yeah.
Because they've got no PSR worries.
Yeah. So, obviously, all 7 matches in the pre-season should be commentary from us, kick by kick. And like I say, we will be jumping on board with any breaking news that we get. So, again, just before we go, if you could...
Two nice comments there. Thanks, Gary and Wynne, mods and chat. Have a great evening, lads and lasses.
Thank you,
Gaz, NUFC is saying, remember, guys, if you hate Sunderland, hit the like button and subscribe.
And that was what I was going to say. Please hit the bell, because as soon as we get something, one of us will jump on board and do a live, obviously, chat about the news and gossip that's out there. So again, once again, it's a goodbye from him.
Oh, and it's a goodbye from him. The opposite way around.
You've changed us today. You've totally confused me. Until the next one, boys and girls, lads, lassies, bairns.
How are the lads?
Lassies and bairns. Take care all.
Bye-bye.